Kosi sikeleli Afrika, malupaganisu pondolayo, Israeli tandazo yetu, kosi sikelela, kosi sikelela, kosi sikeleli Afrika, malupaganisu pondolayo, Israeli tandazo yetu, kosi sikelela, tina lusakobayo, woza moya, woza moya, woza moya, woza moya, woza maya. Oh, Israele, kosi sikelela, tina lusakobayo.
The Fifth Pan-African Congress was a major political event influencing movements for decolonization in Africa and the Caribbean. Also, it had a powerful influence on black people here in Britain, including the 17-year-old girl, Kath Long. Although she never attended the Congress herself, she had the opportunity to meet some of the leading figures. The Congress gave a political dimension to her black identity and inspired her community activism.
I was born in Manchester in 1928, and in 1933 my parents moved to Blackpool. I then came in for a lot of hostility, even though I was very, very young. When I was starting to go into junior school, all the prejudices, and especially in a place like Blackpool, where they'd never seen any black people before, and I used to spend my evenings crying quite a lot because of the torments I used to get. I was walking along the promenade one day, and I think I had one of my sisters with me. And this woman said, they always used to touch you on your head, you know, and I used to get very angry. And she said, hello, where do you come from? So I said, from here. She said, well, what are you? I said, I'm English. She says, you can't be English, you're black. I'm horrified. She blew us up. I thought, I went home and I said to my father, and at that time the houses had much higher ceilings, around about 11 or 12 foot. And the mirrors was like this, always on the slope. You had a mirror, but you used to have a nail in it to slope it down so you could see it. And my father says, come here. I've told him, I could tell him these things. He said, look at your hair, look at your nose. And he said, you're not English, you're African, right? And I've never called myself English since then. My mother was white, and most of the women who married African seamen at that time was ostracised by their own families. I remember my mother took us to a wedding, one of her sisters' wedding, and we was ushered into a back room, and I saw my mother was livid, and we walked out. Now, I don't know what happened. I think that what they were trying to push us out of the way so nobody could see us, and things like that, yes. I did become politically aware at an early age, partly through my experiences in the school that made me aware that we was different, particularly too with my identity. We had African names, and they refused to call us our African names. They said they was heathen, so we had to use the anglicised names. So that was a stepping over of my parents' authority. So it showed me the powerful and the powerless. It was a very simple political lesson. And I'd read a few books, a good few books, particularly The Ragged Trouser Philanthropist and The Jungle, which was shown the differences between, the exploited and the exploiters. When I was 16, I was debating whether to go into the Communist Party. There was a demonstration, and the Africans wanted to march separate. So this man says to me, "What do you think?" I thought, "Ooh, asking my opinion." So I said, I think they're right, because of the Union Jack. And he got quite angry. He said to me, "Come the revolution, we'll give you your freedom." And I thought, well, everybody's born free. And there was a contradiction in there. And it was a dogmatic contradiction, so I thought, scrub that. So I didn't join the communists.
The 1950s was a period when many black people came to Britain to work. It coincided with further developments in racial tension. It also marked the beginning of black community organizations to defend the right of black people to be here. Kath played an important part in this development, although at the same time she had to meet new family responsibilities.
Marriage wasn't the happy ending of the Cinderella. I then became strong in a sense that I was a single parent family. I not only had to fight for myself, I had to fight for my children. So that pushed me right back in politics. I started looking at play for children as an important part, childcare, and all different kinds of things. So that brought me into the area of community politics.
The civil rights movement in the US in the 1960s influenced black people's struggles against racial discrimination everywhere. Leaders of the movement, such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, James Baldwin, became household names in Britain as well.
It was a very important part of my life, both my children's life and my lives, because it was a time when Martin Luther King was around, but I never rated him at that time. But it was Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael. When he addressed black people in America, he inadvertently addressed black people in Britain, because the geography changed, but the conditions was exactly the same. There's so many things happening. You'd be rushing from demonstration to demonstration. It was a time of instant demos. There was an organisation, it sounds very, very liberal now, Universal Coloured People's Association, but it was the most militant organisation at the time. Obi Egbuna, a Nigerian, started it. And we then had a man come up here called Ron Phillips, and as an organiser. And we organised a branch here, and I think a branch in Liverpool. And things took off.